this is Pat from the Semi-Auto Armory, back again with another 5-minute Glock mod. Today what we're doing here on the Glock 19 is we're going to go ahead and show you a modification of the connector. Okay, I do have to say I'm not a certified Glock armor, but I do have extensive experience in modifying Glocks to go from there. Okay, so this is just an informational video. The connector is probably the most sought after or most recommended trigger part that people change when they're modifying the pull, whether it be competition or carry or anything else like that. What I'm going to do here on the Glock 19 is I'll show you how to break it down to the point where you have to install said part, and then I'll go ahead and reassemble it. And then from there, what we'll do is we'll do a function test and then kind of a quick review or what it actually does for the gun. So first thing we have to do, as you could plainly see, gun is unloaded, no magazine. Okay, so the first step in installing this here is we're actually going to go ahead and remove the slide from the gun. So we're going to let the slide forward. Okay, we're going to point the gun in a safe direction. We're going to pull the trigger. Okay, so now the trigger is to the rearward position. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and grab the slide. We're going to bring it back about a quarter of an inch or so until it clicks. We're going to pull the slide lock levers down. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and slide the slide right off the gun. Okay, so at this point we don't need the slider, the barrel, or anything. We're going to go ahead and set that to the side. So what we have here, there's only a couple different parts on a Glock. Anyone that has had one or experienced one should know how to break it down. Okay, I got my trusty Glock tool here, and what we're going to do, okay, is the first thing we have to do is remove the pins and take the trigger housing group out of the gun. So the first thing we're going to do here, okay, is we're going to remove the small pin on top. Okay, we're just going to push it through. Okay, everything I do is right to left on this gun. So we're going to go ahead and inject the pin all the way out. Put that pin aside. Okay, now we have full range of motion here from the slide stop lever. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and push on the pin. When I push on the pin, it's going to be hard to pull it out. Okay, you can push on it and bang it with a hammer, it's not going to come out. What you have to do is rotate this slide stop lever, okay, to go ahead and move it out. So since I have decent sized hands, what I do is hold the gun like this, push on the pin, and rotate the slide lever. Okay, at that point the pin comes right out. Put that one to the side. At this point, what you could do is lift up and remove the slide stop. Set that to the side. Okay, the last thing that we're going to do here is we need to remove the pin from the trigger housing group. Okay, on this one here I have my grip force adapter on, so what I'm going to do is remove the pin, again, left to right, and we'll take that out all the way. Set that pin aside. Okay, all the pins are different and unique to each individual spot. Okay, so you really can't get them confused on where they need to go. Alright, I'm going to remove my grip force adapter. And once we have it all done, then we can remove the trigger housing group and the actual trigger. Alright, so once we have the trigger housing group pin out, okay, that's going to release the trigger housing group. We have one last part that we have to remove, which is the actual block in here. Okay, what I do right above here, okay, I insert my Glock tool, okay, right in there, and I just pop it up. Alright, that's going to remove the block from the gun. And then that is all the parts that we have to remove. At this point, if you just grab the trigger housing group and pop the whole thing out of the gun. Alright, so we're changing the connector in this case here, so you can put the slider to the side. Okay, so now we have the trigger housing group attached to the trigger and the connector bar here. Okay, what we're going to do to remove this here, and I encourage you to just study it for a minute so you know where everything is. Okay, see how everything connects. If you have to draw a diagram or which parts connect to what we're going to do is we're going to lift it up here by the trigger bar, and then we're going to rotate it, okay, down. So if you can see here, we're going to rotate it down like this. That's going to release it from the actual trigger connector. So we're going to rotate it up and down until it's out, and it's only going to be held together now by the trigger spring. Okay. Now, in this particular case here, we're only changing the connector, so it's not necessary that you take the trigger spring off. just flip it over to the side, okay, where it's not going to be a problem. Now, this piece right here, this is the trigger connector that we're going to use. So, go back to your Glock tool. If you look here, there's a slot and there's a little hole in there so you can use the Glock tool. What you're going to do is you're simply going to press that connector out so it comes out the other side. Alright? So, what you have here, okay, this is the stock Glock connector. Okay? And you'll notice some of them are marked by a dash or a plus on it, depending if they're heavier or lighter, that kind of thing. Alright, and like I said, what I have is the connector from Lone Wolf Distributors, which is marked as a 3.5 pound connector. So you can clearly see the stock Glock and the Lone Wolf. Okay, they look almost the same. Alright, but this is the 3.5 pound connector. So what we do to install that, okay, is you got to go back. Like I said, remember which way everything goes in. So you have the slot with the hole in it, okay? You're going to take that connector and you're going to push it right through till it fits on there, okay? So you're going to push it in, make sure it's seated flush, and then you're going to bring back around the trigger connector, okay? And then you're going to go back to where you started, so go down, and then you're going to slide it in and pop it in there like that, okay? It's not going to look like everything matches up first, but once you put it actually in the gun and it comes down, everything will fit in there. So that's the installation of the 3.5 pound connector. To go ahead and put the gun back together, okay, we're just going to do everything in reverse order. So we're going to take our slide, or our frame, I'm sorry. We're going to insert the trigger housing group into the back. At the same time, fitting the trigger back through the slot so everything matches up, and you're going to push it down until it's seated all the way. Okay? Next part we have to install after that is the block. Okay? That simply goes back over everything, sits in a position so the holes will line up, and push it in. Okay? Once you get those two in, okay, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert the pin for the trigger housing group. Okay? So, like I said, I have mine with my grip force adapter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert it with the grip force adapter. Okay, if you don't have the grip force adapter, it's simply just putting the regular pin in. Okay. Okay, so now we have the trigger housing group pin in, okay, and everything is there. At this point, you shouldn't pull the trigger or move anything around until we get everything, you know, set back up where it has to be. Okay, at this point, the only thing that I like to do different is I'll take the top pin, okay, the smaller top pin, and I'll put that one in there first. Like I said, everything is right to left in this case. Okay, so once you get in there, you got to make sure everything is, you know, equal on each side. Okay, you don't want the pin sticking out too far on one side or the other. Now, once you do that, okay, the reason I like to do that is because when you fit the slide stop back on, there's this little spring here, and when you stick it in there and do the bottom pin first, then you got to try and get this, you know, in there and hold it down while you're putting the pin in. If you simply do the top pin first, okay, now you can slide it in there and it's going to fit no matter what. So basically, you're going to line up the hole. Okay. Okay. So once you get that pin in there, now you got the spring tension on the slide stop. Okay. At this point in time, okay, always keep tension on the trigger. Everything is moving back and forth how it is. Nothing's bound up. What I'm going to go ahead and do now at this point, I'm going to put the slide back on. Rack it. Okay, again, point it in a safe direction, and then we'll pull the trigger and function test it. Rack the slide, function test. So everything is working how it should. Now what you can do is hold your finger on the trigger, rack the slide, make sure the reset's there, okay? The reason I like striker fired pistols, they got a very prominent reset to it, especially the Glocks. and that's it. So with the 3.5 pound connector, okay, it's not going to automatically give you a 3.5 pound trigger pull. What it's going to do is it's going to lighten it up a little bit. So it's going to lighten the trigger pull probably between 4.5 and 5 pounds, depending on your springs and the health of your springs and whatnot. This particular one has a 6 pound aftermarket trigger spring from Lone Wolf. Okay, so it brings it down. I forget what the trigger pull gauge was on it. It was roughly like 4.4 pounds, I believe. So each one is going to be a little bit different. Not all springs are made equal. And that's it. So that was our quick mod here. This one here might be a little more than 5 minutes, but you know, we're going to try and keep them around there in the future. Take care.